So, and also let me just say, I love this industry. This is, I think, an absolute slam dunk for the next couple decades.
In this case, I mean, thankfully, I have 4 kids and we're incredibly blessed. It took us longer to get pregnant than we anticipated, and it is all consuming.
Yes, they'll give especially dentists for some reason. The dentists get the lowest rates. They get approved for like SBA type terms without an SBA guarantee. It's crazy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Acquisitions Anonymous. My name is Bill D'Alessandro. I am one of your hosts. And today on Acquisitions Anonymous, we have one of the best deals that I have ever seen. I'm super fired up about it. It is a fertility clinic with $2.2 million in EBITDA. I am fascinated by this industry. It has great tailwinds. The margins are incredible, very in vogue. So it's me and Mills and Heather today have a great discussion about the economics behind the scenes of an IVF and fertility clinic. So I hope you enjoy this episode of Acquisitions Anonymous.
Today's episode is brought to you by IvyWorks, a Boston-based software engineering firm dedicated to crafting tailored solutions for SMBs. Are you tired of off-the-shelf software that doesn't quite fit your needs? IvyWorks understands. Specializing in operations and client-facing software, they guide you from discovery to design, engineering, and beyond. With a track record including projects like AI-powered drones for roof scanning and mobile apps for managing large-scale operations, IvyWorks is not your average firm. Led by founders Callan and Sam, they prioritize transparency and personal attention, involving you in every step of the process. Act now and receive a free discovery session complete with systems, architecture design, and feasibility study. And even if you don't choose IvyWorks, you'll walk away with a comprehensive project scope. Don't settle for generic software solutions. Visit IvyWorks today and mention Acquisitions Anonymous for your free project discovery walkthrough. Let's build the software your business truly deserves.
Hello, another episode of Acquisitions Anonymous. I'm pumped. Heather and Mills, good to see you.
Hey, Bill.
Morning.
Hey, Heather.
Morning. It's early here, but I'm here.
You say
Heather,
that, and it reminds me, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's 7:30. Heather, you look like you are halfway through your day. Like you look totally
I get up
awake.
early. I've already answered a bunch of emails. I've got deals done. Now I'm on. Here we go.
So is it that kind of has to be your life as a West Coaster, right? Because the whole world starts at 6 a.m. your time.
That's right. I mean, if you slept normal, you would be so panicked when you finally sat down to work that because you're already 3 hours behind. So yeah, you have to start early on the West Coast. And there's a benefit that you your day ends early, but not really, because enough people on the West Coast realize that you're on the West Coast and they keep calling you till, till 5 or 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So.
And the East Coast people have no mercy. They schedule 9 a.m. Eastern meetings with you all the time, right?
That's right. And they also think that their time zone is the only time zone. So when they ask you for a meeting, they don't specify.
It is. Yeah. I mean, it's the default. You shouldn't have to say anything other.
As an East Coaster, I'm guilty of that.
Yeah. What you guys think nobody else has another time zone. Okay.
Honestly, what I realize I'm actually more guilty of is I'll be like, it's 9:30. I'll be like, oh, I need to call Heather. And I'll just call your cell. And then people are like, hello? Like what? Who's dying?
It does happen.
Yeah, that was the worst. The other side of that, when I lived and worked in Colorado, so almost California, time zone wise, it was maddening because by 2:30 or 3, you couldn't get anything done.
Yeah.
Like everybody, we had an office of the company on the East Coast and the office in Colorado. And if you didn't finish the thing you needed, interaction with by 2 p.m., well, you're waiting for tomorrow.
Yeah. It is a kind of a panicky feeling. Yeah, exactly. To realize like, oh my gosh, wait, their day is almost over. Don't eat lunch. You don't eat lunch either on the West Coast. Forget it. Fasting.
Just work straight through. Well, this deal today is on the West Coast. It is a renowned fertility clinic. And I'm psyched to do this one because I'm really interested in this industry. And this we found on Axial. Axial, it's kind of true to form. This is a little bit bigger. So it's 5 million in revenue and 2.2 in EBITDA. So that's one of the reasons I like Axial is the deals tend to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more professional. So we found this on there. You guys want me to read it or?
Yeah, or I can read it. You share the screen. I'll read it.
Okay.
So
Let me throw it up for our YouTubers.
It's an Axial teaser. It's anonymized. It's a renowned fertility clinic. Summary: the company is a renowned fertility clinic offering a wide range of fertility treatment options. With a team of leading reproductive experts, the practice provides state-of-the-art, customized analysis and solutions for individuals and couples facing fertility challenges. Key aspects that they highlight: recognition, multiple awards, and industry recognition for outstanding work and success rates. The team, it's an esteemed reproductive endocrinologist and fertility expert specializing in comprehensive fertility treatment options, including IVF, which is in vitro fertilization. Isn't that right? IVF. They list increasing patient volume, steady growth in new patient volume with over 1,000 new patients in 2022. They have diverse payment options, primarily self-pay patients with acceptance of major third-party insurances, including Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, and Cigna. State-of-the-art facilities, cutting-edge technology, and customized treatment plans to ensure the highest success rates. They list some growth opportunities, geographic expansion. You could open new markets in underserved areas, enhance marketing efforts. They say leverage digital marketing and patient outreach programs to attract new patients. How hard could it be? And then insurance partnerships, expand partnerships with additional insurance providers to make services more accessible. We got 3 years, 2020, 21, and 22. In 2020, they were doing $2.8 million in revenue and $500,000 in EBITDA, so about 18% EBITDA margins. In 2021, they grew to $3.3 million in revenue, so double-digit growth top line, and they had $800,000 in EBITDA, 24% EBITDA margin. And then in 2022, $5.2 million in revenue. They grew 58% year over year, and they hit $2.2 million in EBITDA. 42% EBITDA margin. They just list this as a outright sale, change of control. It says it's based in the Pacific U.S. and that's all the info we got on it. Interesting.
Wow,
42% EBITDA margins.
You got to think,
smokes.
like, I'm wondering how old this business actually is. I mean, it can't be that much older than 2020. I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 years prior to that of kind of the initial startup slog. But then they obviously had, underutilized capacity, but probably flat overhead. It's one office. Maybe they added a practitioner or two or some of these specialists, but most of their fixed costs, it looks like, stayed the same. And they just have utilized a lot more of their capacity, which is why so much of it has fallen to the bottom line as they've grown.
Man,
yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, like doing an IVF treatment, there's not a lot of hard cost in it, right? Like once you've got the facility and you've got the practitioners, it's labor and you gotta have the right labor, but the pipettes, the reagents, it's lab work essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I agree with your analysis. It's kind of, this is like the perfect operating leverage sort of story, right? You have sort of these fixed costs, and as long as you can get your revenue up, look at your margin, get, bigger and bigger. I think it has a limit though. And so you would be, as a buyer, kind of interested to know, are they at capacity now in 2020? Is there still some unused capacity that they could sort of grow this? The one thing that stood out to me was the insurance payments. So this is not all private pay. Anytime we look at something like this, where if it's all private pay, that's great. People are just spending their own money. You don't have that whole layer of risk that we lenders call payer risk. So as soon as we see, you're getting paid by insurance or government or something like that, you have this payer risk scenario where you have to look at the reimbursement rates. You have to look at the politics behind any kind of the reimbursement rates, what becomes under pressure suddenly, like, the insurance companies are paying too much for this, or they shouldn't be covering that. And so there's a lot of risk in terms of kind of just feeling that out. And I think that is a concern for me in this industry, in IVF. There is political risk in this kind of treatment, just from the headlines that we've seen in the last year. But there's also just the whole idea of what are the reimbursement rates, and will they stay as good as they have been, to produce these kinds of numbers long term if you're a buyer.
The thing I like about it, Heather, is it says primarily self-pay on this one.
It does say that.
Which,
Okay.
yeah, which I was surprised, though, that they then went on to enumerate all the insurance.
Yeah,
they,
then maybe that's why I missed
accepted
that
and
good
everything.
part. Yeah.
But usually, I mean, knowing a little bit about this industry, it is. So I would be willing to bet, and I'd want to see. I'd be willing to bet this is primarily IVF, and that is not covered by insurance. It is self-pay, and the margins are bananas. I think there are probably other stuff that may be covered, prescribed by a doctor and covered by insurance, but I bet that is kind of ancillary to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's interesting with endocrinologists is, reproductive endocrinologists are just one subset, one facet that deal with fertility or infertility, but endocrinologists deal with like sometimes diabetes, hormone imbalance, thyroid issues. And so it could be that you got this guy or gal, one endocrinologist. I just Googled, like, average comp is around 300 to 350,000 for an endocrinologist. And they're like, yeah, sure. I mean, we can take on some additional scope of work in our fertility clinic, but you just may need something else.
Yeah, it's possible. And maybe that's the insurance stuff and the IVF's the bread and butter.
Yeah, and maybe they're treating like maybe this other issue may be the cause of your infertility, and they can bill medical insurance for that. That makes sense.
Yes.
Okay, so stand corrected. The IVF part is private pay, which you got to love anything private pay, because this is just people spending their own money and usually get paid up front. You don't have to wait. And so the cash conversion cycle is really, really good. You are dependent on your team of endocrinologists and keeping them on staff. And I think any, kind of highly paid, highly skilled position like that, that's probably a challenge because they can go elsewhere. They can make money all kinds of different ways as an endocrinologist these days. So I'm sure that's a little bit of a challenge here. But otherwise, I really like this is a business. What's not to like?
Do you think that the MD is the one who owns it right now?
So that's the risk. If the MD owns it right now, it's risky because you've got to replace them, right? And that's the whole thing.
And if you're listening to this right now and you're an endocrinologist, please give me a call.
Because I would love to open a fertility clinic.
Yeah, let's buy it. Well, okay, so that brings up this whole discussion of medical service organization, MSO. And this is the way in which people sometimes buy medical practices like this who are not a physician. It's really a workaround around regulation, because the regulation says that if you're going to bill for certain medical procedures, and by the way, these regulations vary state to state, but if you're going to bill for medical procedures, the company that's doing the billing has to be 100% owned by a physician that's licensed to do those treatments, whatever they are. So this affects, all medical dental practices, as well as sometimes med spas, all kinds of other practices as well. And so what's interesting about the MSO situation is it's a workaround. And there are some states that are legislatively or kind of in court cases putting that under pressure. Apparently in New York, there was actually a case where the judge threw it out and said, this is just getting around the regulation. You can't do this. Now, people are still doing MSOs in New York, so it hasn't really, stopped them. But there is that sort of legal risk if you're going to go that route as an MSO.
Yeah, so it would depend a lot on what state this is in, and you'd want to understand whether MSOs are allowed, whether you have to be licensed, et cetera. So there's definitely, you wouldn't buy this without a regulatory lawyer taking a look at it. But even if let's say that all checks out, right? If this is the endocrinologist selling you their practice, you are still up a creek because they're going to take whatever you pay for this business and go to the beach. And now you don't have an endocrinologist. Right.
I think it's a non-starter for, 99% of buyers. There's probably a very small subset that says, okay, I'm not an endocrinologist or a reproductive endocrinologist, but I'm willing to go try and tie this deal together with someone and partner with them and go do it. But you're talking about a very, very, very niche down kind of, buyer structure. One of the reasons, Heather, that you talk about private pay, that the like rehab facilities have gotten rolled up so aggressively is that it's private pay. You pay up front, and there's not an MD running those. There may be some like psychiatric and, some mental health that happens, in terms of being brought in and subsidized, but it kind of bypasses, I think, some of the harder, more difficult elements of this, and probably similar average order value. I mean, what's the average order value at a place like this? $40,000?
Yeah, IVF is about 30 grand, 25 to 30 grand each time.
Yeah.
I was going to say each cycle.
Times.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
nobody really, or very few probably just do it once.
So lifetime value of the customer is probably in the $75,000 to $100,000.
I mean, you hope not if you're the one receiving the IVF.
Yes. Yeah.
So the way it works, I'm simplifying, apologize for the people who've gone through this out there if I'm being a little ham-fisted. But there's basically two phases. There is the retrieval, where they retrieve the eggs from the woman. Then they fertilize the retrieval from the man, not that difficult. Retrieval from the woman, then they fertilize the eggs in the petri dish. And then you get a certain number of embryos. If you're lucky, you have 10 plus. If you're having fertility challenges and are unlucky, you have single digits. And then they freeze them and they grade them. And so you might have 3 A's, 3 B's, 3 C's. And then they do implantation. So they'll start, and the retrieval, by the way, is the expensive part. It's expensive to do a retrieval. Then the implantations are not cheap, but they're cheaper. And of course there's all these shots, months and months of shots to get your hormones right and the woman's body ready to receive it. Then you do the implantation and you hope it takes. If it doesn't take, you hopefully have more embryos in the freezer and you come back again. And then when you run out, you have to do another retrieval and that gets really expensive again. So that's kind of the drip of how a patient comes to you.
Is all this done in-house, or is any of it like you're having to go to a ambulatory surgery center or something like that?
I fortunately have not gone through it, so I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they do it though right there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it's all a one contained, practice that does from start to finish everything.
Which in terms of medical services that is the cream of the crop, right? Is you're not having to go pay a facility fee at a hospital to use their OR and their staff and their anesthesiologists. Like if you can do it in-house, that's why you get more and more of like dental practices and, orthodontists who are doing, they'll spend a huge chunk of money on a piece of equipment just to be able to scan your teeth, or, now every dentist does x-rays in room. That used to not be the case, but they want to capture as much of that, margin and as much of that price point as they can.
And that's why you have the fixed cost leverage on this business, right? To open this up, you got to build out a medical office with all the equipment that you need to do IVF. But once you pay for it, huge operating leverage.
Right.
So, and also let me just say, I love this industry. This is, I think, an absolute slam dunk for the next couple decades. The reasons behind it are kind of a bummer, but from a business perspective, I mean, holy cow, talk about tailwinds.
Yeah.
If people are culturally deferring children for longer, right? When you defer, you're not as fertile, right? You need fertility help. So culturally, people are pushing kids longer. There are, men's testosterone levels are in the toilet compared to 1 or 2 generations ago. People are just generally less fertile because of the garbage food we eat, because of all the plastics in our water. The list goes on and on and on. People are just less fertile, and that trend is not going the other way.
Yeah.
So sadly, already so many more people need fertility help than did 20, 30 years ago. In another 20 or 30 years, this industry is just growing like crazy. It's all private pay, as we mentioned. And I will say, like, the positive part of it is like you're helping people have kids, which is freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't work, but like this is like one of the most like pro-human businesses you can possibly be in, right? Like you are helping the human race procreate, which is awesome. So that is why I love this industry so much, is I think you can make a ton of money and feel super good about doing it.
I wonder why these don't exist in hospitals. I've never seen one that's part of a hospital.
Well, that's what I was just going to get to, is where did the patients get referred from? I do know someone who worked as a consultant for a medical practice where it was she would consult them on any and all possibilities to have a child. IVF, adoption, surrogacy, you name it, everything, and sort of connect the patients to whatever the best choice for them would be. So that would be what I'd be curious about: are the where are the referrals coming from? Are they coming from the hospitals? Or are they coming from other medical practices? How are they reaching the customer? And they may go ahead.
I think they come a lot direct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think they come direct. Like,
well, they make note of high success rates. Yeah, right. So I think it has something to do with
marketing there is. High success
you've got to be able to have these high success rates and market that, and then you're going to get word of mouth, and you're going to get people coming because of your high success rates. And I think it has to do with the methods that they use. And what I don't know is how often that changes. Does technology, is it moving fast in this space just like it is in everything else? And does that require some CapEx or some training expenses? Maybe.
I think like most medical things too, not to oversimplify something that is really complex and kind of multifaceted in its complexity, but my guess is, right, there's the intake process looks the same for every single person who comes in. You're evaluating the same key kind of underlying metrics and saying, hey, you have hormone imbalance, you have maybe, I don't know, some kind of, other health issues, and let's help with those, maybe start there. And then we're moving kind of down the scale in terms of intervention. And that process is probably like very personable in order for it to have a good customer experience, but it's probably very formulaic. We're doing the same things day in and day out, and we have different tools in our toolbox, and we're just picking which ones best suit the circumstances of this patient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The tough part, I have several friends that have gone through this, and the tough part is the science is not great. Even still, there's a lot of what they label unexplained infertility. And they do all the labs, everything seems normal. And like these people still can't get pregnant, these couples. And it's of course sad and maddening, if that's you going through it. But and this kind of gets to another reason I actually love this industry is it is currently a disaster. The customer service in this industry is garbage right now. Everybody that I know that has gone through this feels like they are a number. Like they walk into a clinic, they get treated like a number. This is like one of the most consequential things they are doing in their life. Huge dollars are on the line. They're buying a BMW.
Yeah.
Right. And they are treated like a number. Like I have heard of people going in and going like, I know your cycle is ready for it on Thursday, but we are only doing it on Tuesdays. So you have to wait until next month. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is abysmal. So I think there is a huge opportunity and the margins are bananas. So there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to white glove people all the way through this. I think there's a massive opportunity to just be a lot better in the fertility space and take a ton of share.
Well, and we've talked about, Bill, like in the past, businesses that are adjacent to something that provides like massive tailwinds. If you're adjacent to a very, very large transaction and you have a small transaction, like that's great. In this case, I mean, thankfully, I have 4 kids and we're incredibly blessed. It took us longer to get pregnant than we anticipated, and it is all consuming. I mean, I have kids between 10 and 6, so it's been a little while, but I still distinctly remember how just all encompassing it is when you want to have a kid and you can't. And that's why, I mean, it's not surprising that people are, they go into debt, they, put a second mortgage on their house, they sacrifice anything and everything. And so you're right. There is something about this that is, kind of noble and very like humanitarian.
If you do it the right way, or you can be a total jerk off about it.
Yeah.
Well, to your point, the 42% margin says, maybe you're not doing the most you can for customer service because that's how you get that margin. So that is interesting. Like you could grow the top line and still probably grow your EBITDA with a skinnier margin by delivering better service. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, more endocrinologists, more appointment times, all that.
My sense of it is that delivering better service is not expensive. I mean, I'm talking like in the way that like the Ritz-Carlton delivers better service than the Marriott. Mm-hmm. Just like treating people like humans, like, not treating them like a number, communicating with them the right way, being empathetic to their concerns. Like these are the types of things that the bar is so low in this space. And I think the margins are so good. And you might go, well, why don't you just charge less, right? Are you ripping people off? Like this is the market price of this service, right? Like this is what everybody is charging. And could you take a little bit of share by pricing down a little bit? Maybe, but every fertility clinic I've ever seen is booked solid. Mm-hmm. So this is the price of the service. This is what it is. So my thought would be if you're going to make great margins, at least deliver a great customer experience.
Mm-hmm. Agree.
I think it is interesting that they talk about geographic expansion because it brings a couple things to mind. Let's say best case scenario, you reach out to this, this broker or this investment banker, and there is a staff endocrinologist who is not the owner, and they are, they have a massive runway, something you feel comfortable, you're basically betting on them as the jockey to run this thing. In this model, similar to dentistry, if you want to grow geographically, what a lot of like dentists or orthodontists do is they open another office and they just split their days. I'm Monday, Wednesday, Friday at this location and Tuesday, Thursday at this location. I wonder how that works here, and if you are able to kind of maybe just take on the additional rent overhead and the initial upfit overhead, but maybe your staff is bouncing back and forth as a means to kind of subsidize that growth. But it seems like it would be very, very difficult to, hire a staff endocrinologist for each office as you grow, because most of these people probably default to doing it themselves because they can capture most of the value. It's like a weird growth model. Yes. Yeah. And the CapEx.
There's CapEx because I think you have to set up the facility again.
Yep.
You have to have this whole clinic and kind of surgical facility. Maybe you can bounce your staff, but I think the more expensive part is the facility, leasing and setting that up. I've certainly done my share of SBA loans for, building those out. It's not only expensive, but it's really time consuming because of all the regulation and all the specialization of what has to go in. So I feel like the geographic expansion has a lot of cost to it potentially.
But that's your value, right? Like as the investor and the capital, like that's what the endocrinologist doesn't have. Like They can capture, they'll capture a lot more value in their agreement with you than a carpenter would, right? But they need you also. You're gonna need each other. So I think hammering out, a good partnership model at which there are probably a lot of industry comps, like how dentists do it, how veterinarians do it. There are definitely there's a model out there for how to scale practices that require a professional practitioner. Mm-hmm. So I would just look at one of those, learn about that, and then see if you could stamp it out and hire a new endocrinologist. But the top of your funnel is I need new endocrinologists for every single office. Mm-hmm.
Is there, there's certain businesses that you look at and you go, okay, there's, kind of a moral gray area. Like, we've talked about things in the past, like payday lending or title lending. I had one broker one time tell me, I was like, yeah, I'm not really interested in the title lending space or anything like that. And he's like, what? It's not like strip clubs, but it's like, there's these kind of vice businesses, ethically gray businesses. We looked at a business one time that was a online breeder of puppies. And so it's like, okay, you got all kinds of different, potential target that you're putting on your back. Is there anything about fertility and infertility and IVF that is like, I don't know, taboo, touchy? Like, are people going to come after you and say, kind of like the puppy thing that I realized is like, there's a lot of people who are like, hey, you should adopt instead of, somebody breeding more puppies when there's so many dogs out there that need homes. Is there anything like that in the fertility world or the infertility world related to like adoption? I don't know. So I'm just posing the question.
I think there kind of is, but I think it depends on where you are. This is in the West, but I think it shouldn't be, in my opinion. But the whole abortion debate and when does life begin is kind of coming into this space, which makes no sense because this is people who are trying to have children. But the whole idea of what happens to the embryos and all of that, mm-hmm. I think there is for some people a gray area there, and I think it because our country is so divided lately, it really depends on where you are, whether this is an issue. This says the West, so probably it's not a big issue, especially if it's California.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely people are going to get upset at you, right? The margins are really good. Not everybody succeeds, but you still collect all their money. There are complaints about kind of the economic gating of fertility, right? Because poor people and rich people are infertile at the same rates. And it's $20,000 to $5,000 to do IVF. So there's like moral questions about that. A lot of people have had a lot of very bad experiences. I mentioned earlier in the episode about, bad customer service. Like if you give someone bad customer service, take their $25,000 and they don't have a kid, they are going to be pretty pissed, right? And vocal and, so you're going to deal with that. That is absolutely there in this industry. But I think in my opinion, you got to look, it's easy to look at, the heartbreaking, like these people didn't have success, but look how many people you are bringing children to. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, let's do thumbs up, thumbs down on this one.
I am like 3 thumbs up. I don't have enough thumbs. I'm very into this.
Yeah, thumbs up for me.
What do you think that this sells for?
10x plus.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Assuming it's not endocrinologist owned,
Yeah.
like assuming you got staff, assuming this is actually acquirable,
Yeah.
10x plus. There's got to be private equity all over this. I bet these are getting rolled up already.
Which tells you, if that's the case, then they are planning to just grow the pants off of this thing.
Or roll them up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yeah. I bet this sells for a very nice number.
And Heather, at 2.2 million in EBITDA in 2022, you're, even if Bill is, twice as wrong, even if it sells for 5x, you're way outside of SBA.
Yeah. It's too big.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's very much in a no man's land already. I wonder what happened, because my guess is based on what we're saying and what we're seeing, I feel sure that this transacted.
It's sold. Yeah. And it could have been an add-on, somebody could have already had one and this was the add-on at 2.2 million. It would be a good one for private equity. So, but if it was the first platform, 2.2 million is actually a little small to get conventional financing. It is weird.
Yeah. All right, then that begs the question. I know we're kind of going long, but that begs the question: why would somebody not? If you like, this is a good business. Why would you not start this? Why would you not go to the med school?
Well, I got to go to medical school first.
Why would you not go to the med school and go to the reproductive endocrinology class and say, hey, I want to back one of you guys. I'm holding open interviews. In the hallway.
I'm surprised more physicians don't do that. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe they don't realize ETA, you got to get out there to the medical schools. You need these guys as partners. And I'm surprised it doesn't happen more. I do see it a little bit more in my business, people partnering with physicians for stuff like this. I'm just starting to. I'm surprised I haven't seen more of it before now.
And you would think there would be an entire business model, like venture capital seed funding endocrinology clinics or dental clinics or whatever. Like all these people are coming out of school with medical degrees. Some fraction of them are entrepreneurial and going to start their own practice, but they don't have the capital because they're deep in medical school debt, and just say, hey, we're going to fund the CapEx. You're going to have a slice of the pie. Let's go. Yeah. And there's some failure rate built into your model and you just spin them up.
I think the thing that, probably helps buck that trend is, and Heather, correct me if I'm wrong on the SBA side, but banks love lending to doctors. It is unbelievable, the terms that docs
they'll give especially dentists for some reason. The dentists get the lowest rates. They get approved for like SBA type terms without an SBA guarantee. Yeah. It's crazy. You're exactly right. Yes, they love lending to dentists and doctors. Absolutely.
I did a real estate deal like 18 months ago where I partnered with a couple docs, and it was owner occupied. We got owner occupied real estate status because they were moving their practice into this building, and then we upfitted it. But we got 100% financing on the construction, on the upfit. We got 85% loan to value on the purchase, and we got a 15-year fixed rate straight AM at 3.25.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Now granted, this was right before rates went up, but like docs and the one kicker was the bank was like the physician practice has to bring their business banking relationship over. And that was how they were going to make up for it, which was great. It was perfect.
Yeah. That's a big deal now. Bringing your deposits as a way of bargaining for your rate, if you have good deposit balances to bring, is a huge hack, because banks are hungry for deposits more than ever. Ever since the Silicon Valley Bank debacle, deposit flows became unstable, or much less stable than they ever used to be. So they're less predictable. Now banks suddenly really care about getting your new deposit relationship much more than they used to.
Yeah.
One of the most valuable, if you were still listening to this podcast, this tip might be worth the price of admission, which was $0, but still, this could save you a lot of money. And Heather, I think you taught me this about a year ago, which is that, Mills, to your point, a bank can say you have to bring your deposits with you for the loan, but they legally cannot contingent you that you have to keep them there. So you can you can say, great, bring my deposits. You bring your deposits for closing, and the next day you can wire them all back out, and there's nothing they can do.
But don't do it the next day. I have to stick up for my banks here. But yes, they cannot legally tie you together that way. So it's really more of a marketing pitch, and they hope you bring your deposits there and that you'll be happy and they'll take good care of you, but you are not actually stuck there, which is good.
But they will make it sound like, are you bringing your deposits? Yeah. Oh, good. You are bringing deposits, and you'll get much better terms if you're bringing deposits.
Correct.
The carrot that got dangled in front of me to move our deposits was very compelling. It was way better than, and I was like, shoot, I should have negotiated way harder with my incumbent bank, 2 years ago. I missed out on all this yield.
But 2 years ago, they probably wouldn't have done it.
No.
It really has literally changed. The Silicon Valley Bank thing changed everything. And now it's front and center for all of the smaller banks.
Yeah. This was a fun one.
Yeah, this is a really good one. The reason I think this is going to go for 10x is it's multiple arbitrage. It's exactly the same thing that's happening in dental and in vet, is that the roll-ups are trading at 14 or 15 times EBITDA. And so you can pay 10x and you still got multiple arbitrage if you're private equity.
Yeah.
So that is why I think this is going to go for a big number. Sorry, searchers, going to be tough.
Yeah. This is who you're up against.
This is who you're up against. Yep. All right. Well, this was a good one. I would love, let me end. If you know about this industry, we would love to learn more. Tweet me on Twitter at BillDA, or find us Acquisitions Anonymous on Twitter. I would love to learn more about this industry. I'm fascinated by it. I think the tailwinds are incredible. So it was cool to see a little bit behind the scenes on this episode. Also, if you like this episode and you thought, oh, there's another industry that you're super psyched about, go on our website, acquanon.com. We have, I think it's like 350 episodes that we've done now. So 350 different businesses in all different industries. We have the whole back catalog on there. Everything is tagged by industry. So if you want to see just e-commerce deals, you want to see just construction deals, whatever it is that floats your boat, you can filter it that way, and you can see just Acquisitions Anonymous, all SaaS if you want, or e-com or whatever. So go on our website, acquanon.com. There's also our newsletter on there that goes out once a week. It includes all the episodes we did that week. It includes some cool links from the hosts and just fun things from around the internet that are related to small business operating and acquiring. So come find us on the internet. Thanks for listening today. See you guys on the next episode.